Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and I'm a knitter and maker living in Seattle, Washington. And today I'm going to talk to you about all of the projects that I worked on in the month of October. I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone who left really lovely messages under my last video. If you haven't seen my last video, I announced that I am pregnant with a little girl due in February, and so many people left lovely, kind messages, which I really appreciate. Pregnancy is hard, and it's long, and it's tiring, and your notifications, like the notifications from your comments, were popping up on my phone all month long, and everyone made me smile. So thank you so much for sharing those. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you to take the time to leave a comment. I read them all, and I heart them, and I really appreciate them. So thank you. And then the other thing I wanted to mention before we talk about knitting is the Fall Fix Along. So Fall Fix Along is a make along that I've been very generally running since September. And it's more of just like a challenge than anything else. It's an opportunity for us to look at our knitwear and maybe fix some things that maybe just aren't quite fitting right. So last month I showed you my Marseille sweater, which I knit earlier this year, and the sleeves were too long, and so I ripped back and refixed the sleeves to be the right length, and I've worn that sweater like 4 or 5 times since fixing it, and so it's just a testament to me about how valuable it is to take the time to make your knitwear work for you. I feel like we spend so much time and invest so much time and money in these projects that it's definitely worth an extra hour, 2 hours, however long it takes to make something work a little bit better for you, which sometimes you don't know until after you've worn the piece. So a couple of you have tagged me on Instagram in your projects that you've fixed, and it's just really fun to see and motivating for me to take the time to fix a couple other things. So thank you to those of you who have participated. I hope you're enjoying it. We'll keep formally going until the end of November, I guess, but it's an open invitation and just kind of a reminder of the importance of making sure that our knitwear works for us. So yes, thanks for participating in the Fall Fix Along. It's been very fun. All right, that I think is it for announcements, and we can get into the knitting. So I guess I'll talk to you about what I'm wearing first. This is the Gern Zenser by Sandnes Garn, which I knit last year. It's kind of an all-over textured sweater, and I just threw it on over the pajamas that I'm wearing at home today because I'm not going anywhere. But it's super warm and cozy, and I really like it. I think I knit this in the second size, but it's just got really nice texture. So it has moss stitch at the top, these kind of like pearl bump welts between each section. It's got this lattice section. This is a double moss stitch. Then there's these little braided cables, and it has 2x2 ribbed details. So I really like this sweater. I made it, like I said, I think a year ago. It's the perfect like sleeve length for me, perfect body length. Well, we'll come back to that in a second. Perfect amount of ease. I really like it. Super comfy. I made it with a recycled yarn, and by that I mean like it was a thrift store sweater. I think it was Eddie Bauer, and I bought it and unraveled it and re-knit it into this sweater, which I'm more likely to wear than that one. So yes, the length, I guess, is technically really nice. Like when I made it last year, I really enjoyed the length that this sweater is. The problem is that now I am pregnant and I'm not wearing high-waisted jeans anymore like I normally would because I can't. My belly does not fit in them. So like normally I would wear jeans. My belly, by the way, is growing. Normally I would wear jeans that come up to like here. So there's like a good chunk of sweater that would be over the waistband of my pants. But now the jeans that I'm wearing are going underneath my belly, and because I like the ones with the side panels, the maternity jeans. So if my jeans are like coming up to here, it doesn't give me a lot of sweater coverage over the top of my pants, which feels a little funny, but it's fine and it's temporary. And it's just another one of the many joys of pregnancy, and I'm sure if you've ever been pregnant, you can relate. So yeah, I feel like all my sweaters are a little short these days, but it's only temporary. That's what I keep telling myself. So yes, that is what I'm wearing. I really like this sweater. It's from the Sandnes Garn Soft for Women pattern book, which is number 2202. I know it can be kind of tricky to get a hold of, and you usually have to buy a quantity of yarn when you buy the pattern booklet. There aren't a lot of stores in the US that sell it. My local yarn store, Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, sometimes has it in stock. So if you're local to Seattle, you can check there. I've also had a couple people that have called that store, and I think she shipped them the pattern book. So that's an option if you're still looking for that pattern book. If you like some of the patterns in the book but don't want to have to track down the whole thing, I made a video like well over a year ago now where I go look at all the patterns in that book and then kind of give you Ravelry alternatives. So like patterns that are available on Ravelry that are very similar style or look to the patterns in the book that you can make that are maybe a little bit more accessible. So that's an option as well. Petite Knit has several textured sweaters like this that are very similar, even with the lattice, like the Ingrid sweater. And she has some other ones that she's come out with since I've made that video. So there are lots of beautiful textured knit patterns out there for you to try. I'm gonna take a drink. I just am so out of breath these days. Okay, but on the topic of the Sun is Gern booklet, we can talk about my first work in progress. So I showed this to you last month and talked to you about some of the challenges I was having with it, but I have made some good progress. This is the Gia Zipper sweater, which is from the same pattern book by Sun is Gern, and it's a half zip pullover. So it's got like a big collar with a zip here in the front that goes about halfway, kind of like the zipper sweater from Petite Knit, but the collar is a very different style. And I am making this with 2 yarns held together with a wool and a mohair. This is Cascade 220 non-superwash in the color Lake Chelan Heather. It's a really pretty heathered like duck egg blue. And it has like yellows and greens in it. It's really pretty. I like this color a lot. I bought this yarn quite some time ago, knitted an entire sweater out of it, and then just like never really wore the sweater. So I decided to unravel that sweater and use it for something I felt like I would wear more. And I originally had cast the Gia Zipper sweater on with just the single strand of wool, but the gauge was a little off and I was worried that the fit wasn't going to be quite right. And then I remembered that I have this mohair in my stash, which is a really pretty color. This is, let me find the label. This is the African Expressions Hope in the color 6173. It's a South African yarn that I bought online a long time ago from a yarn store that was an online yarn store that was closing. So I got it for a good deal. It's kind of hard to come by in the US, but it's fine. It's a mohair polyamide blend. And I have 8 balls of it, which is 200 grams. And I bought it quite some time ago, like when I was getting back into knitting, and mohair is super popular, still is, but I bought it because I wanted to make an all mohair sweater, but I didn't have a pattern in mind. So I was like, oh, 200 grams will be fine, which I've come to find out that really for an all mohair sweater in my size, I really need like 250 grams minimum. So I didn't have quite enough, like I didn't really have a full sweaters quantity for my size. So I've just been kind of hanging on to this yarn for a while, and I was wanting to make a sweater with just it, but really all I could do was the cumulus blouse, and I didn't really want to do that. So I just decided that I would use it for this project, which fixed my gauge issues, and we'll get it out of stash and into something that I'm going to wear really often. So it definitely makes the fabric of this garment a little thicker, a lot warmer, but I think I can now use it more as like an outerwear piece, or more of a transitional piece. And that like I can put it over a long sleeve shirt or a thin sweater if I'm going out and about but don't want to wear a coat. I think this sweater will be really nice for that. So I'm making progress. When I showed it to you last time, I had just started the back panel. So the back panel is done. The front panel is done. I've joined in the round for the body and knit probably about 3 inches of body, and then I ran out of the ball of mohair I was on. So I've used 2 balls of mohair now. And I decided to start with the double knitting on the collar next, which I'll show you. So you kind of do one side, do the other side, and then join for the back and finish it off. And I haven't gotten very far, but it looks good so far. It's super nice and squishy. This is the first time I've really done double knit. Like I've tried it before, but first time I've used it for a project, and it's really nice, but it is time consuming. And the way that this is constructed, there's like some decreasing and some increasing in the double knitting, and just like takes a little bit of attention and focus. So
it's kind of slow going, but I'm making progress and it's going fine. And my plan for this is to work the collar, and then I will do the sleeves next, and then I will do the body, because I'm a little bit worried about the amount of yarn that I have. Because I bought this main color yarn so long ago, I don't know what dye lot it is, and I probably wouldn't be able to get the same dye lot anyway, and so I don't really want to have to buy more of this. And so I'm going to use what I have, which is why I'm going to do the body last, because I'd rather have the arms be the proper length and have the body be a little cropped. I think once I can wear my high-waisted jeans again, that will be fine. And I have enough yarn for the pattern in the size that I'm making, which is the second size, as written, but I'm making a change to the construction. So this sweater has some really intense waist decreases, and I'll put a picture of someone else's finished project here so you can see, but it's like really severe, and it gives this sweater kind of like a very 80s Jane Fonda workout video vibe, which is cute. But I just think that knowing myself and how I like my clothes to fit, I don't want a tight waist, especially currently with the way that my body is changing. My stomach's going to keep getting bigger, and then postpartum, like, I don't know how my body's going to settle. So I would just rather have a sweater like this that's a bit boxier and a little looser around my waist. So I'm omitting the waist decreases in mine and just doing it straight down. But that means that, like, instead of, I have to do, like, I will need more yarn basically for the body to get it to the same length that it is in the pattern. So I think it'll be fine. But again, I'm going to do the sleeves first and see how we get on with the amount of yarn that I have. I think it'll be fine, but I'm always playing yarn chicken, so it's like not that new for me to be doing it again. The only other thing about this sweater that I'm feeling a little iffy about is my tension. I just feel like I have a lot of rowing out in the sections that are knit flat, which, you know, it is what it is. It happens to everyone. And I guess it's really not that noticeable, but I can kind of see it. I think with blocking, it should even out a little bit and it'll be fine. And it doesn't bother me enough that I want to reknit this for a third time. So I'm just going to continue forging on with that. But yes, that is my Gia Zipper sweater. I think this is going to get set to the side for a little while. I have some other projects that I have a little bit more of a time constraint on that I need to focus on. So I think that's going to get set aside for a bit, and I will just have to work on it once I finish some of this other stuff. I'm at the point now where, like, knits for me are less important than some of these knits for others that I need to do. So that's how I feel about that. Yes. I think part of the reason also that I didn't make a ton of progress on this, I mean, I did actually make some pretty significant progress, but I could have made more progress this month if I had taken it away with me. James and I just went on a lovely little baby moon trip in August for about 10 days. And I didn't take that project with me because I didn't want to have to, like, wrangle the multiple strands of yarn on the airplane, and we were moving around quite a bit. So I didn't want to take it with me. So I decided to cast on a different project for that, which I will show you now. This is my Autumn Tales shawl by Ozetta, which is called a shawl, but it's really more of just a scarf. It's kind of similar to the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit. It's all over garter stitch. You do some increasing, you do some decreasing. The Sophie scarf has a I-cord edging, and this has a applied kind of like slip stitch crocheted edging that you do after you finish the knitting the actual sweater, that I think is really pretty and kind of a differentiating factor of this pattern for me. But I really like it so far. It's very simple and soothing and repetitive, and it was great for all the travel. So I knit like probably this much of it while we were traveling, and I've done this much in the time since we've gotten home. So yeah, I am liking it so far. It's going to be really long. Since this is, I'm a little over halfway. Halfway is about here. We can take it. Halfway is about here. So I'm this much past halfway, and I've started decreasing, as you can see up here. But I'm kind of envisioning this as just, yeah, like a scarf that I'll wrap around myself, or that I can wrap around myself and the baby if I have her in a baby carrier when we're like going on a walk in the neighborhood or out and about running errands, etc. So that's my vision for this. and I think it'll be really useful. I don't really have that many scarves, so this will be nice. But I want to talk to you about the yarn that I'm using. So the pattern is written for Plötulopi, which is an unspun Icelandic yarn. And I personally love unspun yarn. But I had this yarn in stash and I didn't have any Plötulopi, so I decided to use this yarn and I really like it. This is the Briggs & Little Country Roving, which is a Canadian yarn brand, and it's an unspun yarn. And I find it like a good middle of the road unspun yarn. So I've used 3 different kinds of unspun yarn. I've used Plötulopi, which is Icelandic wool, very rustic, has the really long guard hairs, can be kind of prickly for people, and I wasn't sure I would want that like up around my neck. And I've used the Hillesvåg unspun yarn, which is super soft, super lightweight, but very kind of fragile. It breaks really easily and it pills really easily. This yarn I have used for a project before, so this is my second time using it, and I really like it. It's very sturdy for an unspun yarn. It's very, it doesn't pill. It's like, I would say it's toothy, but it's not prickly. Like it feels woolly, but it's not scratchy. If you're sensitive to wool, maybe it wouldn't be the best for you, but I'm not concerned about it at all. So yeah, I really like it because I would say it's a good beginner unspun yarn because it's pretty robust. Like most unspun yarns would not hold up to being like tugged on like this very well because they can break really easily. But this one is pretty robust. Like the density of this strand is enough that it holds on to itself. But when you wash it, it gets really nice and lightweight and like blooms really well. So you can see this is washed. This is half of my shawl that I've washed. It like gets much more airy, much more loose. You can compare it to like the unwashed strand here. So the blocked is on the top. It really blooms and loosens up and gets like, it'll trap more heat in there. It'll keep you super warm and it's soft. It loses some of that prickliness for sure. So I really like it. You can also kind of see it in the fabric. So this fabric here is not blocked and this is, and this just looks like a little softer. It's like almost hazier. I don't know. It's just a little bit like more fuzzy. You can kind of see through the light how like when it's blocked it fills in the gaps of the garter stitch a little more. I really like it. Yeah, I think this would be a good first, if you want to try unspun yarns, this would be a good one to start with because it's really affordable, and if you live in North America it's fairly accessible, and it's going to be a good intro to unspun yarn because it doesn't break really easily. You can tension it like you would tension pretty much any other yarn. The only disclaimer is that it comes in 220 gram cakes. So like wound up kind of like this, but 220 grams, but it comes 5 strands together because it's classified as a bulky weight yarn. It's like meant to be used for really hardy, like outerwear items or like thrummed mittens. But I've never used it knit 5 strands together. I just unply all the strands, and by ply, I mean, they're not like wrapped around each other. They're just like loosely set next to each other, basically. Basically, when you get it in the cake, it looks just like this. Like the strands are just all laying next to each other like that. So they're very easy to pull apart and separate, which you have to do if you want to knit this single-stranded or even double-stranded. And it's not hard, it's just time consuming. Like the way that I end up doing it is like separating it into 2. So I'll take like a bunch of 2 strands and 3 strands and like separate them into really big piles in my living room. It takes up a lot of space, but I just like gently let the yarn fall, and then I'll pull them apart again, and just hand wind them. This yarn would definitely hold up to a ball winder, but I just find it easier to hand ball it up. So yeah, I've used 3/5 of the yarn that I have. I've used 3 of the 5 little balls that I wound up, and I'm well over halfway, so I should be good on yarn. This yarn comes in 220 gram cakes, like I said, or 227. It's like a very generous amount of yarn, but I used some of the yarn in my Lonely Leftovers vest, which I'll put a picture of here, that I made in the springtime. So I had like just perfectly 200 grams of this yarn, which is exactly how much the pattern calls for. So I think I'll be fine on yarn. I'm always playing yarn chicken, like I said, but I will have more than enough to at least finish the shawl. And I should have plenty to do the edging as well. So we'll see about that. I have to get creative, but I think it'll be fine. So that's fun. I want to finish this project up just so that I can wear it in the colder months, and also because I have a lot of whips going on and I just want it to be done. It's pretty straightforward and easy, so I think I'll be able to wrap this up relatively soon, but that's my hope for that. So that's whip number 2. Whip number 3 is another whip I took on the trip with me because it was small and portable, but it's ended up kind of being a fail, which is unfortunate. So this is Sennis Garn Sisu, which is Sennis Garn's superwash sock yarn. It's fingering weight. This is the color 2015. I bought this last year at Strikkelykke in Bergen. It's a very cute little shop. And I'm using it to make some little overalls for my girl. Overall like onesies. It's basically, it's this free pattern from Berger de France that's like a onesie with buttons down the front, and it like comes over the shoulder so you can see whatever little shirt they're wearing underneath. But yes, it's a free pattern, so that's great. The problem is that the pattern is written to be knit flat, and I don't love to knit flat, especially I knit a pair of, okay, I'm going to complete my thought here. I knit a little pair of overalls for a friend's baby earlier this year that I knit flat and seamed from another free pattern from Serdar, actually. And it was fine, but the seaming process was kind of tedious. Like, it takes a while, and I just find it hard to get things to match up perfectly. So you're kind of like easing things together, and it doesn't line up, and you can kind of end up with some bunching. So I wanted to try and avoid that as much as possible with this. So I decided to knit it in the round. But I don't know if it's just pregnancy brain or what, but I didn't take the edge stitches into account when I started knitting this. So when you knit something flat, you basically like have your normal stitches that you need for your body, and then you add a stitch or sometimes 2 stitches on each side of each piece as the seam stitches, the selvage, so that they go on the inside of the work and they won't end up like contributing to the circumference of your project. And you usually do 1 on each side of the 2 pieces that you're sewing together. So you end up with like 4 extra stitches. And for some reason, I didn't account for those when I was converting to knitting this in the round. So basically I needed to take 4 stitches out of the stitch counts. And I didn't do that. And then I don't know how, but like sometimes I ended up with too many stitches on the cuff, and then the increases for the leg were kind of strange. So I ripped it back and started again. And then I ripped it back and started it again. This was all on the flight home from our trip. So I didn't really feel like on a 10-hour flight, the time like just felt meaningless. Like I could rip it out and start again, and not, I was like, I still have 6 hours left on this plane, so it doesn't really matter. So I don't feel like it was like a waste. It was a good learning experience, I guess. But I'm going to rip it out and start it again because I feel like, for one, the leg is really wide, and for 2, it's too short. So, I'm just feeling a little skeptical of the lengths that are used in this pattern. So I've decided to just use the measurements, like the fit measurements for the 3-month size, which is what I'm making, from the Ellen's Coming Home set by Petite Knit, which I made last month. I already own the pattern. So I'm just going to use like the leg length for 3 months that's listed in that pattern for this. And I will calculate like the decreases or the increases that I need and the proper increase rate and everything, and start this again. So yes, this has been an interesting project, trial and error wise. I feel like I'm kind of ending up like designing my own little baby overalls, and that's fine. But I'm like not really super motivated to start it again right now because I have all these other projects with me that I can work on. So yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna get back to this, but I do want to make it. I do want her to have these cute little sunshiny yellow overalls. So I'll get there when I get there, but it's something I'm thinking about and something that I want to do. So yeah, that's the next thing that I have on the needles. Whip number 4, which this is already a lot of whips for me. I normally kind of limit myself to 3 works in progress. I also have a sock on the needles that I haven't touched this month. which like I don't really count that. I kind of count it, but not really, because I cast that on in like June, and I've just been like working on it as and when I need a portable project. But that's another whip, and then this is another whip. So I'm like at 5 whips right now, which is more than I prefer to have, and it kind of stresses me out to have so many projects going. But here we are. So my next work in progress is a sweater for my dear husband, James. This is a surprise Christmas / anniversary gift for him. I've never knit him a sweater before. I'm not sure that he's going to wear it. So if he doesn't, I will never knit him a sweater again. But that's okay. I was really inspired by Laura Penrose. Laura and her husband celebrated their 7-year anniversary this year. James and I are also celebrating our 7-year anniversary this year. And the traditional gift for 7 years is wool. And so Laura knit a sweater for her husband, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm making the Kurshaven sweater, which is a pattern by Stricke Cafe. And it's this really pretty kind of like basket weave textured sweater. I knit this for myself like probably 2 years ago now, and it's the sweater that James says he likes the most that I've ever made. He likes the texture of it, and I was like, oh, well, then I'll just make one for him and hopefully he'll like it. So that's why I chose this pattern. I'm using the women's pattern for this project because I already have it and I've already used it. There is a men's version of this pattern that is sold separately, but the sizes on the men's pattern are kind of just like extended women's sizes. So I'm doing the second largest women's size, which is the same chest circumference as like the 4th or 5th men's size. So I didn't feel like I needed to buy the men's pattern to do this because the gauge is the same and the sizing is similar. The only thing that's different is that the body is a little bit longer on the men's pattern, but I think I can just do that without buying the pattern. I may just add like another repeat in the body and below the split, and then another repeat in the body above the arm split. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet, but I'm using the women's pattern because it's basically the same. The only thing I've changed so far is the ribbing. I'm doing a 1x1 rib, and the women's pattern uses a twisted rib, but the men's pattern uses the 1x1, so I just went with the normal 1x1. That's where I'm at on that. It's going well so far. It's going pretty quickly. It's a 15 stitch gauge on 6mm needles with a pretty like chunky yarn. This is what I'm using. It's this charcoal gray, 100% wool. It's also a recycled, like it is also a thrifted sweater that I unraveled and I'm using for this project. And I think it's a superwash wool. It doesn't say on the label of the sweater, but it just says 100% wool. But like from feeling it and from working with this other superwashed wool, I think it's superwash. It just like squeaks on the needles in a way that 100% wool usually doesn't for me. So I think that'll be fine for him because I'm not sure if he's gonna, I mean, I do laundry, so I don't think he would like put it through the dryer or anything, but I don't know why that's relevant, but I think it's a superwash, so it might grow a little lengthwise. So yes, anyway, all that to say, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do like one little stitch repeat a day. And by stitch repeat, I just mean like one of these little lattices. So like the chart repeat is two strips, I guess you could say. And I've done 2 chart repeats here because I have 4 strips. So I'm trying to do one little strip or half a chart repeat every day because I want to have the body done before Thanksgiving, honestly, because I'm not going to take this away with me. We're going to visit family at Thanksgiving. I'm probably not going to take this with me because I'm trying to keep it a surprise and I don't want him to ask me what I'm working on. He's like seen me working on it, but I don't think he's registered that it is what it is and that it might be for him. So if he has, he's kept his lips sealed, which is great. I hope he pretends to be surprised if he's figured it out. But I don't want to like obviously knit it in front of him. So yeah, I probably won't take it away with us on Thanksgiving, which means I have like the next 2 weeks basically to do the rest of the body, which I think will be fine because again, big needles, big gauge. But that I think would just help me feel like I was on track. And then once we get back from Christmas or from Thanksgiving, I can do the sleeves and the collar in December, which should be fine. That seems like a manageable pace. So we'll see about that. But that's my goal. So I'm working away on that and I think it will be good. If he doesn't wear it, then I'll wear it. and it'll be great. Okay, that's my last like active work in progress. The next thing I want to show you is a swatch. So I have been wanting to make a little blanket for the baby for a long time, and I had it in my head that I wanted to use the pressed flowers shawl pattern, like design, from Amy Christopher's, who is Savory Knitting. I wanted to take that pattern and put it in a blanket for the baby, which is great. And it's just taken me a while to get around to it because the yarns that I'm planning to use, I'm using, this is my main color. This is Filatura di Crossa Zara, which is a DK weight, 100% wool superwash yarn from an Italian company. And I bought it secondhand. It was super cheap, but it was a kind of a funky color that you can't really tell anymore. But if you look, it was like a pukey, almost like bright green. There's little pops of it throughout this ball. Like right here, you can kind of see. It was like a really yellowy green color that I wasn't sure I was going to use. So I overdyed it like a grassy green. Didn't love that. I overdyed it again, more of like a blue. And this is where we've ended up. So it's like very tonal. It's like a tonal greeny blue. And it's pretty and I like it. So I'm going to use that as the background color. And then for the main color, I'm just using this. I'm using the green as the main color. And for the contrast color, I'm just going to use, I was just planning to use this 100% wool, this Regia 25% nylon, 75% superwash merino sock yarn that I bought at Pandora Hobby in Sweden for like $3 or $4 a skein. I have a ton of it. I haven't used it in the year and a half that I've had it. So I'm going to use it for this project and just help, move things out of stash. So I'm holding it double because it's a fingering weight yarn and the pattern is DK. But I was thinking I might like dye this yarn, speckle it. Anyway, I'm now feeling like I'm running out of time to make this blanket before she gets here. So I decided to cast it on when I saw that Casey from Young Folk Knits is doing a little pressed flowers knit along. And with that, she got a little discount on the pattern. So I bought the pattern finally and did a little swatch. And this is what we're working with. So I've done some swatching. The bottom, this bit is just as written in the pattern swatched. So you can see that, you can't really see, but in the pattern, it's mosaic knitting and all of these, you just knit everything. So it basically ends up in a garter stitch. So the green has purl bumps and the white has purl bumps. And then the white flowers are in stockinette. Then, inspired by some other people who have knit this as a blanket, I did a swatch where it's kind of like mixed. So the green in this, the background color is stockinette all the way up. And then the white is pearls and the flowers are stockinette. You can kind of see a little bit better if I hold it. Here, let me find a good place. Okay, so you can see that there are more bumps on this one. This one's a little more smooth. I think I've decided that it doesn't really look that different between the pearl bumpy and the stockinette side. So I think I'm just going to do it this way because it's going to be easier since I don't have to purl. But I was feeling that this looked really high contrast and I was kind of unsure about the white. It just seemed kind of stark and a little boring. So I was thinking maybe I would dye this, speckle this background yarn and see how that looked. And then I remembered that I have some speckled hand-dyed yarn in my stash, just this little mini skein from Birch Hollow Fibers. A little mini from Birch Hollow Fibers. This is the Sylvia sock base in the color Thornwood. I got the mini skein a long time ago for free from an event that I went to. But I figured I would swatch with the speckle to see what it looked like. And I think I've decided, I haven't even finished the repeat, but I think I've decided that I don't love it with the speckles. I think it's too busy. And this is probably what my speckling would end up looking like. So I don't know. I think I like the plain white more. So I think I'm happy to just proceed with what I've got in the plain white and get going because I have 15 weeks left to finish this blanket before she gets here. And it doesn't need to be done by the time she gets here, but I think it would be better if it was. So yeah, that's my thought on that. I think I'm just going to go ahead with the plain white. I can't decide if I want to do the garter stitch or the stockinette for the background. They really don't look that different. So I should probably just do the pattern as written. The only other thing that I'm considering is how I want to knit the blanket. So the shawl is knit so that it's a triangular shawl. So the flowers are at an angle and they end up looking, when you're looking at it, when someone's wearing it, they end up looking more like X's. And if you do it, but if I do it this way, they look more like crosses. And I think I prefer when they look like X's. I think they look more like flowers that way. And so I'm trying to decide how I want to construct this blanket. There's a project on Ravelry that this woman has made. I think she just kind of adapted the pattern, but she's basically knit it corner to corner. So she like increased out and then decreased back in. And I'm thinking that's what I want to do, because then when the blanket is straight, it looks with the X's. So I think I'm gonna have to sit with the pattern and figure out how to make that work. I don't know why I've decided to modify every pattern that I'm working on right now. It's adding a lot of mental energy that I didn't need to be spending on these patterns. I could just be knitting them like I'm supposed to and it'd be easier, but I'm not taking the easy way out. So anyway, that's where we landed on that. I think I'm gonna do just the plain white. It looks fine. My mom was reassuring me yesterday. She's like, babies like things that are high contrast. It's great. But I just need to figure out construction and how many stitches to cast on, etc. So we'll see about that. But I think it'll be great. So I need to just get a move on. And that's really it for works in progress. It's a lot of stuff. It's feeling a little overwhelming. There are a lot of things in my life that are feeling overwhelming right now. I have a baby coming. I have to decorate her nursery and like get her furniture, like a crib, a place to sleep, a dresser to change her on, things like that. I have to work at my job that I work at full time. I have to, I'm taking a certification exam for work for like a career advancement thing at the end of the month, which is stressing me out. And then I have holidays and I have a baby coming, and it's just like a lot of stuff happening. I'm feeling overwhelmed. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal and it'll be fine. So I'm just trying to work myself through it. It'll be fine. She'll be here. She'll be great. Everything will fall into place. It's just a lot. So anyway, that's a little insight into how I'm feeling. But I'm just going to keep plugging away on my projects. If they get done, they get done. And if they don't, it'll be fine. Nothing terrible will happen and all will be well. So I just need to breathe. So yeah, that's it for works in progress. I do have some little acquisitions to show you from my trip. Oh, actually, one more thing. Because as if I didn't have enough going on, I decided to pick my spinning back up again. This is my drop spindle. It's bottom whirl from Louet, made in Holland. And I'm currently spinning the Jacob Icelandic cross yarn fiber that I got at Flock Fiber Festival. This is from Skagit Woolen Works, so it's a local fiber. And I really like it. I've spun up half of the fiber already. This is my little already spun up skein. The gray is the Icelandic Jacob, and then the white is 100% Cheviot that I got online because I wanted to do this kind of marley thing. So I'm spinning the gray, and then I will spin the white, and then I will apply them together, and then I will knit a hat for myself. That's my plan. I'm not in a rush to do that. It's not urgent. It doesn't need to be done anytime soon. So, it's just kind of like if I need a break from all of this knitting that I have going on, I can work on that. So yeah, just mentioning that I've been spinning and I really like it. Okay, last thing I want to talk to you is about a couple acquisitions that I got while we were on our trip. So we went to London, we went to Brussels, which is where I used to live, and I showed James some of my favorite places. And then we went to the Cotswolds for a couple days for like a nice, relaxing countryside getaway. And it was great. We had a good time. But we only went to a couple yarn stores. I was very restrained. I'm trying not to bring too much new stuff into my stash. I have so much as it is, and I don't even have time to knit with the yarn that I have. So I'm trying not to get too much more yarn. But there were a couple things that I was looking for that are hard to get here or just much cheaper there that I was looking for. So the first thing that I was looking for was some Zakami yarn, which is Scottish hand-dyed yarn company. And we went to Loop London, and they did have some Zakami yarn there, but it was only on their Surrey alpaca base, and I really wanted like a merino base, like a sock yarn that I could make like a hat with or some mittens or something, but they didn't have it. So I didn't end up getting any Zakami, which is fine. And then when we were in Brussels, we went to this lovely little yarn store called Sip and Knit, which is in Stockholm, very close by to the Stockholm market, like just around the corner if you're familiar. It's a really cute area. They have the best market there, and the best waffles at the market. So if you're in Brussels on a Tuesday, Friday, or Saturday, go to the Stockholm market and get the waffles from the waffle truck. They're the best thing you'll ever eat. And then walk around the corner to Sip and Knit. It was an adorable little store. They have a coffee bar inside and lots of great yarns. And I got 2 of the yarns I was looking for. So one of them is Manchalopes, which I got this medium brown color, and you can kind of see compared to this, it's much lighter. But I got this. It's a Spanish unspun yarn. So this was a new unspun yarn for me to try. And I can get this in Seattle at the Fiber Gallery, which is not too far away from me. But to buy Manchalopes in the US, it's like $18.50 a plate. And I think at Sip and Knit, I paid like €7.50 a plate. So it was less than half the price to buy it in Europe than it is in the US. I don't know why that is, but I find it kind of annoying that I can order yarn from another country for less expensive than I can buy it 2 miles from my house. I don't get it, but it's the truth. So anyway, I bought 5 plates of this because I want to make the Miles shirt jacket by Ozetta, which is a really lovely like shirt style, like a button-up jacket with the like swooped hems of like a tailored shirt. And it's like a cardigan, it's a jacket, whatever. I really like it. I've liked it since it came out, and I think it will be great for transitional seasons in Seattle, and it will be a good layering piece, and will be good for postpartum or while I'm still pregnant, and I'm really excited to work on it. So that's what I bought the yarn for. I got enough for, I think, the medium size, which is usually what I knit in Ozetta's patterns. And I'm really excited to cast it on, but I'm not going to cast it on until I finish some of these other projects, probably until I finish James's sweater and my Gia sweater. So it's going to be a while, but I have the yarn for it, and I'm very excited. So that was my first acquisition. And then the other thing I got was just one skein of Mondim, which is a non-superwash, no nylon sock yarn from Retrosaria Pomar, which is a Portuguese brand and Portuguese wool. And again, this is something that I can get in the US, but not very accessibly. There's one store that I know of in Washington that carries it. It's called Tolt Yarn and Wool, which is a beautiful store. I've been there once. It's in Carnation, Washington, which is like over an hour from where I live driving. So it's not somewhere I go to very often. And the one time I have been there, they didn't have the hand-dyed colors of the Mondim, which is what I wanted. Because if I'm going to buy this fancy special sock yarn from Portugal, I want it to be a fancy special color. So this is the color that I like and that I wanted. It's the color 208, and it has lots of pretty colors in it. It has like this cranberry and these pinks and this green, and then there's some like hints of lilac in it. You can kind of see over here these like light purpley colors. I just think it's gorgeous, and I love the colorway, and I'm really excited to have it. I'm just probably gonna knit some vanilla socks with it so the color can shine and be the best, be like, I don't know, so it can show off the colors. And I'm probably not gonna knit with it for a while because I have a lot of other stuff to work on, but I am really excited about it. I'm excited to make some lovely, cozy, non-superwash socks, and that'll be great. So that was my other acquisition. We didn't end up going to, what's it called? We didn't end up going to Beautiful Knitters in London just because it was kind of out of the way, and I wasn't sure that they were going to have anything that I wanted, so I didn't want to go there if they didn't have what I wanted. And then we stopped at a cute little yarn store in Oxford. I think it's just called Oxford Yarn Shop. But they didn't have anything super special that I couldn't get at home. They had like Sundus Garn and Rowan, which I can get here. So yeah, those are my 2 acquisitions. That's all I got. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I was intentional in my purchases, and I have plans for them. So yeah, that's really it for me for today. That's what I worked on it in October. It was a lot, but I've got a long way to go still. So we'll see. Yes, I think, yeah, this is probably going to carry me through the rest of the year, and that's fine. So that's what I've got. Yeah, that's really it. The only other thing I wanted to mention before I sign off is that I want to do a baby knits video, but I wanted to ask you kind of which you would prefer. So I could either do a baby knits video that's all like free baby knit patterns, because there are lots of free baby patterns online that are cute. So I can do either an all free pattern baby knits video, or I can do kind of a mix of free and paid patterns, baby knits that I like, that I either plan to knit for my baby or would like someone else, like things that I would want for my child specifically. So let me know what you think, which one you would prefer. If neither is the case, that's also fine. If you have any other ideas for videos, please let me know. But yes, that's probably the next video I want to make for you all, because it's at the top of my mind. Yeah, or I could just talk you through my plans. I don't know, whatever. Let me know what you think format wise for that. Otherwise, that's really it for me. If you have any other video ideas, feel free to leave them down below. If you want to do like Q&A again, that was fun. We did one like a year ago now, maybe a little longer. We could do another Q&A. Whatever you think, whatever you want. It's up to you. So let me know what you think. Beyond that, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you being here. It is a joy for me to make these videos for you all. I love talking about my knitting. It's so much fun, and I really love reading your comments and hearing what you've been working on, and it's great that we have a fun little community here. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, that you're enjoying fall, and I will see you in my next video.